All right, so we're going to be gathering nuggets of perspectives from our speakers throughout the day. But once again, let me remind you, those who are seated inside the hall, we're going to have a panel discussion surrounding the topic on Generation Z on the roll. In fact, this is a time for us to understand the fast-paced generation and how they are consuming media and how better to engage with them. So that'll be the focus of this session. We have our panelists already inside the hall, and we're going to invite our panelists and our session moderator as well. But for those who are heading for the parallel track, which is Fast 5, we have 5 case studies wherein our presenters will be sharing their case studies 10 minutes for each presenter, sharing their exemplary work. And that session is taking place at Solset 1 and 2. So please go straight and take a right. That's Solset 1 and 2 for all of you. With that, Sachin, are we good to roll our panel discussion? All speakers in? That's right. So on that note, let's get this session started, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, first up, I'm going to invite our session moderator, who's a CEO with Dan Performance Group, and he is a very renowned digital entrepreneur and also one of the most respected digital evangelists in the country. He heads all the digital performance agencies of Dentsu Aegis Network. So I'd like to invite Mr. Vivek Bhargava to please come on the stage. A warm welcome to you, sir. And let's welcome him with a round of applause. Well, joining him, let me now invite our next set of speakers. I'd like to invite Shakti Upadhyay, who's the head of marketing and PR with Kia Motors. And he's a creative and business-oriented marketing professional with progressive experience across a broad range of functions in varied industry segments. Let's move forward. And our next speaker for the session, we have with us Mr. Sunil Khosla, who's the Chief Marketing Officer with AGS Transact Technologies. So if I may please invite Mr. Sunil Khosla as well. He comes with more than 19 years of experience in sales and distribution and is the head digital business retail of India Transact Services Limited. Well, that brings us moving on to our next speaker. We have with us Mr. Arvind RP, who's the Director Marketing and Communications with McDonald's. So if I may please invite Mr. Arvind to please come on the stage. He has over 18 years of experience in marketing and sales across various geographies and categories as well. And moving on to our next speaker, we have with us Mr. Prasanjit Datta Barua, who is the business head, technology, automotive with Facebook as well. He brings rich years of experience where pushing the limits has evolved as his signature style. And we've also seen him as a prolific speaker in various conferences, so warm welcome. And that leaves us with our final speaker, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us a teen entrepreneur with passion, in fact, to fill the gap, the generation gap that we're talking about between the generation and the company. And she's the founder of Yeet, a company that she founded at the age of 16. Can we have an energetic round of applause to welcome on stage Ishika Bhargava? Well, I love the dynamics of this panel already, Vivek. So with that, over to you then.
Okay, so I think, before I start this panel, a while ago, I used to have this one word which I used to believe stands for Gen Z, and that word was babies. So at the end of this discussion, I think that word has to change. And I think from that note, I think I'm going to ask each of the panelists to share their views on the topic, and I would like to go, Ishika should go first. I would have said that, ladies first, but that's now become a Me Too thing, so that I can say Gen Z should go first. So like your takes on the topic, whatever you want to share, Ishika.
Yeah. So hi, I'm 16 years old, and what I've realized is that I directly or indirectly influence a large part of my family's consumption. The vacations we take, the cars we buy, I tell Papa what to get, what's in. So right now, the Gen Z is 50% of India's population. That's like 500 to 600 million, right? And none of the companies or marketing agencies have any Gen Z on board. And they're all trying to reach out to us and try to communicate with us. And they don't understand the language we use. So that's why I've named my company Yeet It. So how many people here know the meaning of the term Yeet It? Oh, nice. So what it basically means is successfully winging it. And since companies won't understand that, they'll understand that we don't talk like they do, and they don't reach out to us the same way as you can reach out to millennials. So it's going to be very different for everyone, and it's high time companies understand that.
Yeah, PD, your views?
After that impressive 1-minute pitch, Vivek, you've taught her well, I must say that. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm Prasenjit. I work for Instagram and Facebook in that order, given that the topic is Gen Z. But I think what we're seeing, Vivek, just to quickly say, I think bang on with what she's saying. The platform is being more and more used for self-expression. It's always been there. And we were just having an interesting conversation before we walked in here on feed versus stories. So what we're seeing in Instagram is stories and Facebook. Instagram stories is a massive, massive trend that we're seeing. We have some 500 million users now on stories. And these are January numbers, so they've only gone up. And the other trend we're seeing is this entire trend of showcasing your real self, unfiltered, playful, having fun. And therefore stories kind of works very well because it's ephemeral. You can kind of switch it off in 24 hours. So that's the trend we're seeing where moods, the current mood of the moment is captured immediately. It's a sharing way. It's a way to start conversations. So stories, therefore, is a big theme. The other theme that we are seeing on Instagram and Facebook, and more on Instagram on this one, is passion points. So if you want to follow passions, you stay on Instagram. You want to share with the world, it's more Facebook. So travel, fashion, automotive, gadgets, food, pretty much are the top 5 passions that people tend to follow. So people are being known for their passions and what they want to share out. So that's what we are seeing as a trend happening on Instagram and Facebook. And more on stories like I spoke about.
Actually, that's quite fascinating that, like this real self, authentic self, it's just a fascinating conversation because I think when you're trying to project yourself online, the Generation X, as we would call it now, always had this thing that we have to project ourselves more than what we are. It's almost like a vanity wall for us rather than an authentic self. So this is very interesting, the Gen Z.
No, because it's lovely. I think what I find very refreshing, and I have a Gen Zer at home also, he's in boarding school right now, is they aren't afraid to share who they are. And that's what I love about this. Yes, there is this one-off case of trolling happening, but I think that's also kind of taking care of itself because they're smart enough to manage that piece. So I just see that confidence, which is refreshing compared to what we guys have seen in our generation.
Sure. I think, Arvind, you've had a lot of experience targeting this segment of the population. And what is your experiences with it and your take on the topic?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Arvind, heading marketing at McDonald's. So from a consumer perspective, of course, it's often talked about the explosion of talent and resultant explosion in platforms and the variety of content consumers consume across these platforms. I think it's even more important from a brand perspective to define and retain its brand voice, to avoid fragmentation, right? So there is an approach to, one approach spreading yourself thin across platforms. The other is to dig deep and build long-term engagements and association and properties on identified few platforms or interest areas. Whatever the approach, I think it's very important for brands to stay true to the brand voice. There's a huge amount of clutter out there, branded and unbranded. So that's one thing I think is very important. In the context of millennials, even more important, values like authenticity. How authentic is the brand? In the context of McDonald's, we have got many restaurants. So there's a real life experience and there is an online experience. How seamless it is. How is the brand being authentic? I think these are extremely important considerations in the digital age as far as millennials are concerned.
Sure. I think, Sunil, I think what we're doing first is there's just 2-3 minutes of our view on the topic, so we take a positioning. That will also help the rest of the session as well as any questions that you guys would like to ask to the panelists.
Good morning, everyone. So firstly, myself Sunil Khosla from AGS Transact. How many Gen Z in this hall? Please raise your hands or stand up, please. No, Vinay, you're not a Gen Z. Gen Z is anybody under 23. Yeah, you're more than 34. So how many Gen Z? 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. So I think next time we should have more Gen Z in these kind of conferences. So I've got 2 Gen Z at my home. So I've got 2 daughters who are 10 and 13. So I can, at least, I am not a Gen Z, but I can speak on their behalf. I believe for me, Gen Z is Zenless. So you add a Z to endless, and that is what Gen Z is all about. unlimited thoughts, unlimited ideas, initiatives, and they are the ones with no boundaries. You can call them the front runners of the gig economy, where of course they don't want to own anything, but they want to consume everything. I think the way we look at our organization, so our line is not as interesting as Facebook, Instagram, but of course we use those handles for our consumers. So in the payment world, what we do, or the task for us, is that how do we create a content or a product which focuses on all, not only Gen Z, but Gen X, Gen Y. But we know that considering the data that we've got, I would like to correct Ishika here that India by next year would have 477 million Gen Z, which is 50% more than China. China would have around 312 million Gen Z, which is the biggest thing. And the global world will be having, I believe 31% of the 7.7 billion people would be Gen Z. So when we say that payments across the world, especially in India, has to target Gen Z, I think there is a reason. And the success of the wallets that you see, the success of UPI, I think a lot of it's attributed towards the way Gen Z is progressing. And we were having a chat with Ishika here. So 50% of our pocket money is in a wallet, which proves that the times are changing. And I think that is the way to go, even in our line. So when I talk about my marketing team, if my marketing team are full of millennials or even Gen X, then we'll not be able to produce a product or content which is relevant to Gen Z. So when I talk about my team or the way we proceed, I'm proud that most of my digital marketing people, except for Vinay, are Gen Z people. And that's why we can create something which is meant for Gen Z. So thank you.
Yeah, Shakti.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure interacting with you all. I'm Shakti Upadhyay. I head marketing and PR at Kia Motors India. We are a very young brand. We started almost 1.5 years back. We are the youngest kids of the block. And it is within this small journey that we have made till now, we have got a lot of insights into Gen Z that I would be sharing with you, maybe the top 3, top 4. Although Gen Z as of now is not the primary target audience for me, they are the ones who would affect the purchase of my product. It's a car, it's a bigger product as per their purchase behavior. But in terms of the small journey, the insights that we could gather is whenever you're speaking to the Gen Z or the young at heart consumer, it's all about story. And it can be a long, long story also. It doesn't need to be a very small story being told. It's got to connect with them, it's got to relate with them at every juncture. Coming from going ahead, it's not about brand loyalty. So brand loyalty is passé. It's all about brand love. And that's what we have proven by getting into the segment and straight away getting into the #1 spot in terms of the CSUV segment today. It's all about being cool within the competition. If you're the coolest, how you can do things around the brand that make your brand conversational. People speak about it, people relate to it. That's something which is very important for the young at heart and the Gen Z consumer. The attitude that you carry, the attitude that your brand carries is very important, because brand love is now less driven by care about the customers. It is also propelled very strongly by the attitude that the brand carries. And you can be inventive. So while we were beginning with the Kia Motors brand launch campaign in India 1.5 years back, our strategy was simple. We will make a long story which would relate with everyone who's young at heart. And then when it comes to Seltos, we'll go to the younger audience. And there we created a lot of intrigue. The plan was very simple. We had very low awareness. So we wanted to create intrigue in the consumers so that they would go online and try to find more and more about Kia. That's how we started those campaigns of what is this astronaut doing here, what is the tiger doing here. Then we made the final brand film, which was around inspirations forming a car, and in the end of it, a creature called Meerkat asking Kia designer that, don't I inspire you? That was the strategy there, was to innovate and to leave people with intrigue in their mind so that they would go online and try to find out more and more about Kia Motors to get awareness. And that actually worked across, and I would say as of now on my platforms, the traction goes not only from to the younger, to the very younger audience as well. Approximately more than 300 million views is obviously not a parameter, but 87% average views of a 60-second TVC. That is something which came as a very prominent factor. People went to Kia Motors website to find out what are these characters doing here. And the average time was 1 minute 40 seconds. And the age group was pretty young. I was catering to 18 plus age group there. Brandlib study gave us fantastic results. We continued the story even further. As I said, the story has to be relevant and long. If you can make it relevant, people will look at it. We continued the interaction between Meerkat and Johnny. They kept on doing banter. We created their handles. The Gen Zs and the millennials, someone was supporting Johnny. Someone was saying, please take Meerkat as the inspiration of Kia. With the launch of the Seltos, we even continued, brought in Tiger Shroff inside the story. And as what we have now, this entire long campaign, which started in December, which is continuing till now, we just got the Seltos launch film. On the launch day, we had more than 8 lakh searches for the brand, which was unheard of in the auto segment. We ended up booking more than 6,000 cars on day 1, out of which 25% were online. And that's a very high ticket purchase. Although I would still be finding out with the help of PD how much of my contribution was pestered by Gen Z there. But that's a big factor. And overall, I would say the 4 things again. Story can be long. It has to hold interest and water. People should relate to it, especially Gen Z. You go to the Instagram, what is happening there right now, people, the stories that we have created, they're interacting a lot with that. Then about brand love, creating brand love, not loyalty, being cool, having the attitude, and being inventive. So that's the mantra with which we have decoded. So, thank you.
Yeah, so I think, when I was asked to moderate this session on Gen Z, the first thought that had come to my mind was like, is there a big difference between Gen Z and millennials? Second thing I was asked was that, do I know a Gen Z who I can bring on the panel? So guilty as charged, and I have a confession to make. Ishika is my daughter. So that's the first call I made. I said like, okay, you be a part of the panel. And I asked her that, first of all, do you think there is any difference between millennials and Gen Z? And the conversation that I had with her, I want to repeat out here. So she told me that the median age of Gen Z is 16. The median age of millennials is 32. So you are 40 plus. Do you think there's any difference between you and an 80-year-old? I said, yeah, there is. He says, exactly the same difference between millennials and Gen Z. Just imagine, right? I'm at a stage, I have not completed my education, I have not got married, I've got no job, I've not got a kid, and you're comparing with a person who's got all this. How can you even compare us? And then I went back into some of the experience that I've had with Gen Z. I'll give you an example. Like, Ishika was 8 years old. She was working on a computer, and suddenly she comes and tells me the computer is not working. So I went, generally computers are not working, so I opened an Excel sheet, a Word document, and like she said, no, go to Barbie.com. So Barbie.com was not working, right? So in her mind, the computer is not working, it basically means the internet is not working. There is no difference between the two. And then when I explained to her that computer is different from the internet, he says that, I don't understand. That means what would you do with the computer if it was not connected to the internet? If you take your life today, right, I don't think there's anything that we can do on a computer which is not connected to the internet. But that's how the generation has grown up. They have never faced analog technology. They've always had instant gratification. They've not seen both sides of the world. They've just seen one side of the world, which is online, which is now. And it's extremely different from millennials. Millennials have had some exposure to both. The Gen Z have had no exposure. Her only phone has been a smartphone. Her only device has always been connected to the internet. The fact of the matter is that I think we make a huge mistake if we target millennials in one brush, that millennials and Gen Z are the same. I think they're very radically different from each other, and I think it's very important that brands and marketeers understand this before they start advertising or a marketing strategy for them. But anyway, what I would love to do is, anybody else has any thoughts on the difference between millennials and Gen Z, please share them. Would love to hear your thoughts. Looks like Ishika is already going for the mic.
So obviously I agree that the millennials and the Gen Z are very different. So I'm going to give you like a few pointers, like what I think, like what's different between marketing to a Gen Z and marketing to a millennial. So I believe that the Gen Z, we consume content faster than any other generation. We consume 10 hours of content daily, and we often multitask. So I'm sure everyone has heard that the Gen Z's mind space is like 8 seconds, which is like, we believe it's true, but it's good because we can multitask. Because I'll be talking to 10 different people on 10 different platforms like WhatsApp, Instagram, Snapchat, everything at once while watching a Netflix show. So to get attention is a lot difficult than like getting a millennial's attention. And another way to communicate to us is by content consumption rather than content interruption. Because I think that millennials are a lot more comfortable with seeing advertisements between their content because they've grown up watching television where there have been like ad breaks and everything. But I've grown up watching Netflix. I get very irritated if there are some ads in between my content. I would even pay a part of my pocket money to subscribe for a Savan premium where I don't get interrupted. So that's one thing. And another thing is we are very influenced by influencers. And by influencers, I don't mean just celebrities and people with high Instagram followers. I think every customer of that brand is influencer for that brand. And if I see my friends enjoying a particular brand on Instagram, and I'll probably be using that brand later on too. So now that I've said these things about influencers, I think that customer satisfaction and customer engagement is a lot more important than it was before. And you need to figure out a way to communicate to us while us communicating to each other. So that's my views on this.
And one other thing to add is Gen Zs talk too fast. And this is, after telling her that you talk too fast, this is her slow talk.
No, so let me add on to this debate. Okay, so no, but I'll just give you a couple of facts that we've also seen that completely endorses what the young lady just said. So one is consumption and comprehension of content. Okay, the younger lot is far faster at doing it. What Vivek and me, the old dinosaurs in this room, would take maybe a minute to comprehend. She'll probably do in 7 to 8 seconds, and she will. A, because she's used to working on that small device which is completely focused attention. So the attention spans are completely bang on there. And this is a conversation we keep having with all marketeers, right? You make your films which are traditionally 60 seconds, 45 seconds, 15 seconds and 10 seconds is max she'll give you attention span if she ever gives you. And she just made it very clear to you. But in those 15 seconds, she'll consume anything worth even 60 seconds that any marketer would do earlier. So that's a huge, huge play there. I think that's a big one. And I think therefore for brands, the way we are seeing good brands connecting with this generation is let them in to your world, right? So let them play with your brand, let them engage with you. So talk their language, A, that's one point, very, very important. And for want of a better word right now, dumb down your brand, right? There are a lot of people who have this problem of saying, oh, is my brand okay for emojis? Can I use a filter on my brand? Is it part of my brand guidelines? And I remember when we were doing marketing earlier, there were things of like floor graphics happening, right? And people would say, nee, how can a brand be on the floor? People will step on the brand. So there was that little gap. Then some people went and did it well, and it worked well for them. So this is the kind of barrier you have to get over. Okay, that's the language the consumers are speaking, and especially the younger consumers. So if your brand doesn't speak that language, you will never make that connect. Yeah, so it's so important to make that connect with this generation because they're looking for authentic, unfiltered experiences, like I spoke earlier. If you come across as authentic and unfiltered, they will adopt you. If you do not, they'll switch you off. And she'll go buy the premium subscription and switch you off. Your influencers, therefore, are a next step on the same thing. They will trust influencers who come across as authentic, which will be starting with their friend circle, or people. You'll always have that friend who's really cool at fashion, so I'll follow that fashion friend, and then he will have or she will have 5 more people who are the influencer set. But again, it's about you know your stuff, so therefore I'm following you because you will tell me what to do right. But again, the underlying fact, like she was saying, is authentic. Being there, don't take too much of my time, but make your point and move on, and talk my language. So as brands, that talking my language is the biggest challenge we see when we interact with a lot of brands as part of our jobs. And it could be right from short-form video content to emojifying a brand, to using GIFs and other stuff like that. You'll have to start taking yourself a little less seriously, because the job does get done far faster nowadays with this generation. So that's just to add on to what you're saying. So when brands, just to decode it for the brand marketers in this room, you want to talk to the generation, that's the way to do it. And you'll have to take those leap of faiths.
Exactly, I agree with PD here completely, because that's one of the parts that we have taken in our campaign. While we were, after the brand launch, while we were preparing for the Seltos launch, the deepest insight was that you have to look mean and tough on the road if you're driving an SUV. You have to look very bold, so that, and that's the insight because of which people buy SUVs, because they want to look, intimidating on the road. No one should mess with me. And exactly there we chiseled through a lot of strategy, and we found out the word badass. Now, that's something which resonates with the current generation very, very clearly. It's something, and you find out the dictionary meaning of the word badass. It says it's something who's cool, tough, yet very friendly. So exactly agree with you, PD, on that.
Just adding on to that, I think one key dimension is how much of a digital native one is, right? And this generation is defined by that. Consumption of news, consumption of entertainment, in the context of the eat out category, consumption of food at home or wherever you are, as opposed to going out and eating at a restaurant, right? So this quotient of being a digital native is very, very high in this generation, and brands are just grappling with it in terms of engaging with those consumers, entertaining those consumers, and fulfillment. When I say fulfillment, as to where your product is being bought, is it like home delivery or in the restaurant? So for example, McDonald's, recognizing this insight, we are invested in the restaurants in terms of self-ordering screens. So we have these screens at our restaurant where you could customize the menu, where your experience is just like in a mobile, where a customer can discover the menu, the complexity of the menu, the various choices, customize and order. These are large digital screens at our stores with payment ordering. So you don't have to stand in line the way one normally imagines one normally does at a QSR restaurant. So how do you redefine the journey, both online and offline? I think that's extremely key to be on trend as far as these consumers go.
So one last point when Bhargava asked about millennials and Gen Z is that it's I versus we. Millennials were always like that, I would decide what I need to buy, I need to own. While Gen Z would be always like, let me decide with my group of friends or influencers that what need to happen. To give you a very recent example, last Sunday I was buying a specs frame for my daughter, who's 13 right now. She was least interested in what I was suggesting or her mom was suggesting or the shopkeeper was suggesting. She was on the WhatsApp or Instagram, wherever, and she was connected with her friends and she was wearing a frame all the time, and then finally what the friends decided she bought. So, and it happened in what, half an hour, and we had nothing to say. Second point, I think Gen Z is, it's about ownership. Millennials will still want to have a complete ownership of what they buy. They still would want to buy a car. Why Gen Z is not bothered? They need a car. They don't need to own a car. So they're happy with the Airbnbs of the world. They're happy with the Ubers of the world. And I think that's a shift which is happening between millennial and a Gen Z.
I think the last thing I wanted to add is, right, I think one of the differences that I've seen, at least in my life, is that the older the generation, them paying for anything which is digital in nature, it's something very difficult to accept. For the Gen Z, so let me just share another example, right? I think she was like, 8 or 9 years old, and she wanted to buy an online game. And she also wanted to have an ice cream. So, being a good father, I said that you have to make a choice. I can't afford both. So she thought for some time, and after 30 seconds, she tells me, I'll buy the game. Now that was impossible for me to accept that that kind of choice can be made, right? Because just imagine, right? A child wants to have an ice cream, and she's going to sacrifice an ice cream for a digital product like a game. So I asked her, like, why? Like, why would you not want to have an ice cream? And her answer floored me. She says, ice cream will get over. Right? So it just hit me so hard that a person is taking a decision because they know that that happiness is going to be momentary and the game is going to last for long. So the fact of the matter is that a game is a better choice. So I said, oh, that answer I'll give you both. I'll have to probably sell my company to do that, but I did. So I will do that. But I think, you know, like this whole thing about this digital products, right? It is fascinating. I was having a drink with a friend of mine, extremely wealthy. He was having a really nice single malt in a 5-star hotel, paying probably tens of thousands of rupees for a peg. We discussed about a topic and I said, okay, this is an app that will be really, really useful to you. It change your life. So he was amazed with the app, right? And then that app was 499 rupees. So he told me that, oh, there is no free version of this. I said, dude, you're paying 10,000 rupees for a drink, right? For 499 rupees, you want a free version of this app, right? So the fact of the matter is, I think this is the biggest opportunity. Whether subscription fee or paying a part of your pocket money and paying for a premium service or paying for Netflix or actually paying for digital content or digital apps. This is the generation which is going to do that, because our business models have been built in the past where we are used to people who would not pay for content, or they would not pay for apps, or they would not pay for digital products. But the future generation, which is now 500 million of them, are going to pay for these things. So it's better we get used to integrating that in our business plan and sort of, you know, accepting that this is possible. In fact, Shakti has an amazing thing to share, right? About how much percent between the online and offline, how you were able to connect and you were able to get deposits, right? So we can share your experience of how you were able to get the online and offline connect, as well as deposits and any innovations you have done to make this happen.
Fortunately, I belong to a category where there are a lot of events, because if you sell cars, you've got to do launches, you've got to do reveals, and so what is completely passé or is very common in category is to do a live feed from an event that you are doing. That's something which has been you know, almost done to death. But while we started last year, since we are the global sponsors of Australian Open and FIFA, we got 2 opportunities where we could send 6 kids as official the match ball carriers to Russia in last year's FIFA. So there we took this unique approach of doing contests with these kids. First online, we asked them to submit their skills to us online through a video. Then we called the selected ones at a single place, and we created a lot of content while they were contesting, while they were you know, going for the selection rounds. And we put that on air to see how people would react. And to our surprise, people were loving the way, you know, they were loving that there's a brand who's letting the kids live their passion, and they were all loving the kids enjoying soccer. While we continued, we followed them till Russia. That content is one of the star contents on our page these days. Apart from that, regarding purchase, I have something to share, which is, I mean, I've already said that it's never been done in auto category that we got 25% of the bookings online for a car where you haven't seen the car, because when we did the pre-booking, the car was not there. So they hadn't, they did not know the specs, they did not know the models, no colors, no specifications. They went ahead and they booked the car online, and that was also done after paying a sum payment. So that is changing, you know. Now people can pay online for.
And can I disclose the sum? It was online, right? So it was 25,000 rupees. Just imagine 25% of the bookings where people paid 25,000 rupees for a booking. That's a lot of money for a booking amount, and so 25% of the bookings came from that, right? So I think that ability to sort of put your money where your mouth is
so
now happening.
I'll just add to Shakti's point, quick one. This is another thing we're seeing on Instagram, because it's this here and now. If I see a good product on a model out there that you've advertised with, I want to buy it now. Like, I'm not going to go go to a website, etc. So when we've launched Instagram shopping, what happens is brands have the ability to kind of almost put a little price point to the jacket the model's wearing or the shoes she's wearing. And if someone likes it, you just look at that, you click that and you make the purchase, right? It goes directly to the site and does it. So we're seeing a big take up on that happening across the countries that we work with. and it's an imagery saying, I love this jacket, let me just pick it up. It started with first showing the video of the product. So you'd, like Nike did this sometime back, where they had all these footballers kind of playing, and whenever that video would come, the product would come at the bottom of the video, saying Ronaldo's t-shirts available for this much, and people would see the video there and make the purchase. So you'd see it there, get inspired, immediately make the purchase. Then on Instagram, it's coming on to, even on a still image, you just mouse over, or you just kind of toggle over, and you'll see the price point. So that's a huge pickup. So immediacy, just to add to what Shakti said, you see the weight, you get inspired, you make the booking amount. Obviously in automotives, you can't buy the car directly upfront given the cost, but the booking amount is a great surrogate. In clothes and fashion, we see that happen very closely. It's like Mintras and all the other guys are doing this very, very actively right now on seeing how you can take that mood right there.
So it almost feels like the IDA cycle of awareness, interest, desire, action has now gone into straightaway desire and action.
You can skip levels. And because see, this, like I'm saying, time is the biggest constraint, right? There's so many things to do now. And for the younger generations, even more. So how do you make the most of that 8 or 10 seconds she'll give you is, I think, where we have to put our heads to. Because they are super informed, so don't waste time building the preamble. Come to the point. Because she's already informed about the preamble, so don't underjudge her intelligence ever. I think that's one knowledge we have to be very clear. We've all grown up on places where we've educated people saying, look, that's a car, this is what it does, and therefore I'm Kia. I think just skipping that, this is a car, is not required. It goes straight to the point. So I think, how can we therefore be a little close on our time, be very sharp focused, get straight to the point, and yet be unique about it, is where I think the difference will lie. And brands who've done that have actually reaped the benefits.
I'd like to add one more point here, which is we have a Gen X at my home, a millennial, which is my wife, and 2 Gen Z that we're talking about. And there is only one content that we see together on Netflix. Can anybody make a guess? It's a very tough one. Imagine all 4 of us seeing one content on Netflix together. Okay, so I'll reveal in interest of the time. It's a serial called Shark Tank. I don't know how many of you watch Shark Tank. Ishika would have watched Shark Tank a lot. And we've been watching it together. We have finished almost all the episodes. And it's very interesting. And after seeing that, my daughter who's 13 wants to become the next Ishika because she wants to do something of her own right now. But the point is, when Pankaj was talking about desire and action, the difference between me and her is that whenever we see a good product on Shark Tank, and she wants to buy it, and most of the products are available only in US or Canada, she would immediately order it without even Googling it beyond a point. It will be couriered to her mama, which is in Boston, and while I'll ask her, wait, just research more, see some comparison, but she will straight away go to her desire and action, no looking. She knows she's got the password and everything. She'll go on Amazon and then she'll find the product not in Amazon India, but Amazon US or Amazon Canada. She'll order it. She'll push me to pay because payment currently she cannot do. And even if I'm in office, I'm telling her that I'm in a meeting, you order it right now before it's over. So I think that's the difference between a Gen Z and people like us.
And just to explain Gen Z better, I was in a copy of a Shark Tank show in India. My daughter saw the first episode and he says, Papa, I'm sorry, but you know Mark Cuban, I'm not going to watch any more of the episodes. She didn't watch the rest of the episodes, even though I was on TV. Okay, Arvind, I think you came up with an interesting concept of this topical and moments marketing, right? And in fact, what McDonald's has done, if you would like to share the whole voting thing that you did, was a pretty fascinating example, and would love to share what are the impact it had. And in fact, Ishika saw it and she was like, oh wow, this is really impressive.
Sorry, I missed that. Referring to?
The voting thing, where you would get no choice.
Yeah. So I think, for example, Ishika mentioned the short attention spans, and that is a real challenge marketers and brands have, and everyone is vying for that. So one of the way-ins McDonald's has found is moments marketing. Simply put, look at the topicality. So social listening tools are extremely important, and not all topical moments are relevant for the brand. So choosing your moment, but you have to do it in a very unique fashion. So one of the things that we believe in is do it online, offline. End of the day, we have got over 300 restaurants, and end of the day, it's a moment of truth for the consumer at our restaurant. So we planned ahead for the election campaign. Choice was one of the key, the propositions that we want to kind of deliver to the consumer. We had a campaign coming up that was on choice. That's our USP compared to the other brands out there. And then when we looked out there from a societal perspective, we found out that the youngsters, especially, right, who are so vocal about their views, when it comes to one of the most important decisions that can have impact for over 5 years or more, they rarely exercise their choice. They kind of sit back. And it's believed that politics is interesting more for the older age group, right? So those are some of the challenges out there. We said, being a brand that a lot of youngsters visit and prefer, how can we make a difference? So we kind of leveraged this. One of the first states to go into polls was in Hyderabad, in Andhra, Telangana. So we did an offline experiment. We went in with a mindset of an experiment, though we had a very clear view that we want to amplify it online. As to when customers basically came in for their order, we told them, we asked them, have you voted? And for those people who were not showing the proof of voting, we said, sorry, we have only this available, right? So we don't have your X, but we have only Y. The first instinct is customers got extremely irritated. But slowly the story unfolded for them. And then we explained, go out, exercise your vote, and you will get the choice that you want our restaurants. Most consumers realized the message that we were trying to do. Importantly, we amplified it online so that we knew that it was like a 5-phase election, if I'm not mistaken. So this message has to go on to all the customers, not just that catchment. So we amplified the message. And we knew it was a success when within 24 hours, my uncle in Delhi got it on his society's WhatsApp, right? So while we promote, typically brands promote it aggressively on the social platforms out there, where WhatsApp is so tricky, as all of you can imagine it, to get viral content out there, which is branded, right? So that's what was a success measure, I would say, while there are lots of numbers we can talk about, but that's the key. We infiltrated the WhatsApp, so to say, because WhatsApp is so much of a consumer thing where brands have little role in those consumer conversations. So, but how do we take lessons out of it? How do we do moments marketing on a continuous basis, on a consistent basis? Some moments marketing are only online, but select those moments marketing that you can amplify offline too. I think that's a broad learning I would put out there.
Actually, it's a very interesting thought, because I think, I always believe that if you take at one end, whatever you search on Google is what you're thinking right now. So in a way, there are trillion searches, so is the closest man has come to creating a mind-reading machine, right? Because it tells you what the world is thinking. And social media, what it's done is, you actually share what you're doing right now, you're about to do. So in a way, you get an insight into what the world is doing. So at one end, as a marketer, we can gain insights of what the world is thinking and what the world is doing. Imagine the kind of marketing decisions we can take based on both these insights.
Absolutely, and it challenges the whole conventional research that one does. From a marketing perspective, we all endeavor to get to know what's in consumers' minds, right? The best way, for example, when it comes to a Gen Z consumer or a millennial consumer, you see how he or she behaves online, right? And if you're on top of those trends that are online, those conversations online, and you're able to churn out content that is very topical, you have solved a large part of the game. You are being relevant to those consumers, right? And those consumers with short attention spans, you are there for that moment, you have made your impression, and then you plan your next move. So it challenges a lot of conventional work.
I think in our discussions, I think one point that all of us agreed was that I think the future of advertising and marketing is going to be through content consumption. And I think this whole process of content creation as well as consumption, how brands are creating their own content from a communication point of view is changing. So starting with you, PD, what do you think is the biggest change that has happened in this whole content creation space? And any of the other panelists who would like to add onto it and what we are doing in content creation space.
Yeah, so I'll just give a couple of insights on this one. So one is consumers, and especially younger ones, are expecting you to know what they want. Yeah, so one was there was a search generation which would search and let you know and leave a breadcrumb telling you I'm looking for a car, looking for something. The other guys, these are people saying, look, you know who I am. I've given you enough information about myself. Go check my social handle out. See what I'm doing. I've told you everything. If you aren't smart enough to understand what I need, then you aren't worth my time. So you'll have to now proactively look and search and target there for people based on their demographic. That's one point. From the content creation piece, like I was saying earlier, be authentic. Okay, don't be scared to be unfiltered and playful as a brand. That's the space to be on. And the final part, which is my biggest grouse, is how many brand managers in this room right now? Just raise your hand, please. Brand managers. Okay. How many of you actually think online first or online as part of your media mix? Okay. In every company I've gone to, normally, most of the companies, the brand managers do the entire offline planning, and there's one digital marketing guy who does the digital marketing for all the brand managers put together. I don't get it. I actually don't get it. Why does there have to be only one digital marketing expert in a team when this is the media, okay, that everyone is actually spending time, the most of their time on right now? And this is right from Gen X, Z, millennials, everybody's spending more time. I think the first thing we all need to do is make this core part of our brand manager's vocabulary, no matter what age band you are, by the way. No matter, and it has to be right at the beginning and right from the CMO's level. You have to start talking that language. It has to be core part of your planning. It can't be an add-on. It can't be an innovation. It can't be a cute thing you want to do because you have to do an online thing. So first, let's try to get out of that mindset. Those days are gone. This is serious stuff, genuinely serious stuff, where you will actually have the ability to change the way your brand interacts and engages, drive real commercial benefit. I mean, you've heard Shakti talking about cars being sold. I'll tell you a case of Tata Housing selling apartments on Facebook, where 25,000 rupees was the booking amount. They sold 250 apartments in one day. Those are 40 lakh rupee high value purchases. There are enough and more examples of people going online to offline. There are enough and more cases of people spending time there. So I think, therefore, the grammar and the content of this medium, if I may call it, the social and the online medium, is here to stay. It is what the generations are doing right now. Please filter that into your brand messaging, your marketing briefs, everything you go out there. When your marketing briefs go to your agencies, it has to be part of that. It can't be only the way you would do a TV commercial, if I were to simplify it, right? How are you thinking digital first? How are you thinking online first? Because that guidance will then help the agencies also factor in that. Because a lot of times we go to agencies and they're saying, look, the client only wants the TV film. Uska, then we'll do a cut of it. So that is not the way to think, because if you aren't guiding him there, sorry, I'm being a little provocative on this one, but I think that's where it starts. As marketers, we start doing that first, you'll see the change happening. It's very natural then. So it's not hyper complicated. It's how we've all gone through. We've gone from print to outdoor to TV and radio and the other mediums that we've all seen in our generation. This is yet another medium. Yeah, that's been just, it has the power of the internet, so it has just been all over the place. It's completely embedded. So how do you start thinking first? So content, therefore, will come in from there. The unfiltered, playful, authentic piece there. Let them into yourself. Let them co-create with you. Let them be part of the brand. Let them be part of the influencer set. You know, just so open up your windows there. And I'll give one final example, right? I was a hotelier before I joined Facebook, heading marketing for the Oberoi group. When I joined that group in the first year, the general managers came to me and said, you know, Facebook marketing, not my audience. I have 40-year-olds who come to my place. I'm like, sorry, I'm missing the point completely. And the other point they came and told me was, listen, if a customer has a complaint, they'll send me an email directly. I said, that doesn't happen anymore. They'll go onto Facebook or Twitter and blast the hell out of that complaint, make sure everyone likes, shares, dislikes, retweets, whatever does all to it. So you've got to help. So your product, therefore, has to be open to scrutiny and open to have that conversation. So the days of controlling conversations are gone. And we had this interesting brief chat when we were sitting in the room and someone said that you have to hold your ideas, and someone said, no, we have to give out the ideas. I think it's about just sharing and openly and not being scared about that. So just keep that theme in mind about the fact that you're open to listen, you're open to co-create, you're open to get ideas in, and then wear that on your sleeve and show it to the people. They'll just believe you more, whether it's choosing the color of your car, whether it's giving an idea on the new commercial, but let the person in there. So the authentic, playful filter and the solicitation of participation, I think are the top 4 points that I would see, Vivek.
Yeah. So
as a
actually,
content piece.
PD, I'd just like to add one thing to this. I think that process of education doesn't have to end at the CMO.
Yep.
It has to go to the CEO, it has to go to the board. There are a lot of decisions, new line items come into companies when the board approves it.
Completely agree.
Right? Unfortunately, what happens is that is not happening. And if you honestly ask me, right, the role of any agency or even the marketing departments is to be a Sherpa. Sherpa's role is to walk with the partner to the summit,
Yes.
do the heavy lifting is required, but the fact of the matter is the fitness of the person who's going to climb the summit, in this case the organization, is the most critical function. So if you don't have digital fitness across the organization at all levels, then regardless how good the Sherpa is, you're not going to climb the summit. The fact of the matter is a lot of effort is not made. Unfortunately, it's gone to the junior most guy who's supposed to be...
In fact, Vivek, I think this is the best opportunity for the CMOs to actually scale up on importance in the organization.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you don't grasp it right now, see, there were times when CMO was very important, then we became advertising people, so we became the guys who only spend the money. But here's the opportunity for you to actually make business impact, and I'm not saying advertising impact. Shakti spoke about selling cars, right? He's selling cars. So the CEO will respect him only much more. This is your opportunity, the entire generation sitting with you, use this opportunity safely and nicely and become even more important in that boardroom.
In fact,
I think that's a huge opportunity.
In fact, you know, simple small plug, we have CMO awards today, which is Super 30 CMO honors. The forward that I gave was this, that if you take the next 10, 20, 30 years, I feel the CEO position will graduate from the CMO. There are 2-3 reasons for it. First thing is that they handle the most critical function, which is sales. Secondly, earlier, sales was dependent on a lot of factors. Out here now, with digital economy setting in, digital and software is going to play a pretty important role in all products. So designing of that and communicating so it's no longer about digital marketing, right? Digital is the age we're living in. Because it affects every single facet of an organization, the person who has digital capabilities of delivering results across talent hunting, cross-selling, brand building, sales, understanding consumer insights, all these things will have to be brought in. And CMO is the most equipped person who has all these skill sets. So if he can bring those skill sets up to speed on digital front, he's the guy who can be the next CEO, right? We've already seen that happen in some industries, and I feel that is what the thing is going to be. Yes,
I've got one point here. I think we're talking about content for Gen Z. I'll take 2 steps back, which is probably the product itself should come via the Gen Z route. And I'll tell you what we are speaking about. So we are into this boring payments line, and when Arvind was speaking about that kiosk. So when we are talking about payments, we are no more thinking about how would a POS machine look like, which is a 20-year-old same black color POS machine. We are already thinking, and when I say we, it's not only my company, but probably the entire industry, is the thing that he was talking about, which is the interactive kiosk, where of course the order would be given by the consumer itself, and the payment will happen there only, so there is no touch point. So today, what we are thinking about already is via the Gen Z route, and I'll tell you how, is what is the next form of payment. Today, any ad of MasterCard or Visa that you see globally would have a Gen Z in its TV ad, right? And the devices that we talk about, firstly, it's no device. So today we're talking about VR or maybe wireless payment, or today in the group we are talking about that in some part of the world, Apple Pay is ruling, where you don't even need anything. So people, the Gen Zs are not even carrying a card, forget about cash, which is becoming a reality. So we did, so under our digital transformation program, we are doing 2 very big program called Hackathon and Campus Connect. And in Hackathon, we wanted to invite the millennials and the Gen Z in terms of what is the next level of technology that should be there for payments. And the kind of output that they gave, and today I'm hiring a lot of Gen Z or millennials at a price which normally I would pay for someone who's at a GM level. But we are not sorry about it. In fact, we are happy about it. And because I know that the next form of payment, which is both product and content, will come from someone who eventually would consume it later on. And then secondly is Campus Connect, where we are connecting with the top 20, in fact, top 40 premium institute in the country, inviting their ideas in terms of how should a product look like, how should be the channel dynamics. And they are giving us ideas which my probably sales team is not able to give me. So I think that is the reality where more than content, even the product and the form factor could come from Gen Z itself.
So actually, this is where I think Ishika can add something, right? I think you have some thoughts by which how products should be designed, and you put, like, I think some of the ideas I found interesting. So can you share some ideas where you conceptualize a product for a brand and you feel that it's targeted and solving a problem the Gen Z face?
So one thing I think that companies are doing wrong while marketing to the Gen Z is that they're not taking in feedback. And I feel like we live in that kind of atmosphere where we can give feedback which y'all won't even understand we face. So they think of us as kids and who, we can't contribute to the kind of marketing strategies y'all have. But like, I've worked with a few brands and I feel like I've come up with few ideas which were going to make a needle for them, right? So one idea I had was this cinema chain, okay, where a cinema chain uses this feature called blocking seats, where what I realized is that when I make plans with my friends, I have like so many different groups. I've got like a dance troupe, a maths tuition. I want like a physical connection with all of them. And it's very hard to make a plan through that. And the thing is, I watch a movie like once in a week, maybe twice in a week. So what if I used Instagram features like join chat and create this story saying, I'm going for a movie this Friday, who's in? And then I give them this link on a group saying, why don't you go book your seats and my block seats. And so imagine all of us, like 15, 20 people going for a movie and just like an impromptu plan, and like even for the theaters, just imagine what this could do for them. Because imagine an influencer, like I'm the chief ambassador of Teen Miss Malini. So imagine an influencer like Miss Malini could block 200 seats in the cinema and put it up on her Instagram and select the top 200 out of the 15,000 that would reply and go for a movie. This would like create such a big customer engagement, like using the kind of features we use on Instagram and like creating this whole new experience with movies. Like, other than that, I've also come up with so many different ideas for other brands. Like, it's not only like the entertainment sector. There can be design, usability ideas I could come up with. Like, before the session, I was giving few ideas about Instagram and like how I think there should be like more innovation in the feed. Like, we always want something new happening, but no one's taking our feedback. So that's what I'm trying to do with my company. So
I think
as well.
After today's talk, probably there'll be some people who will want your feedback.
Yeah.
But I was discussing, I think the challenge is that we lived in the age of marketing where it was about advertising, right? The future is going to be building sort of a pipe with your customers, whether you do it through an app, through content, and then keep on personalizing it, right? So having our own first party data, having that pipe, and then monetizing it. So in a way, you don't require advertising if you can build a connect with your consumers and then keep on personalizing for the rest of your life, right? On this note, I think let's open it to the floor. If anybody has any couple of questions to any of the panelists, and I would request the questions to be questions and short rather than comments. And if you can direct it to a specific panelist, it'll be appreciated.
Hi, I'm Sanjeev. I'm a banker, completely out of the place from a marketing media perspective. I hate the business. Question is to Shakti. Shakti, do you see a role where marketing would add to changing the way the dealer-distributor model works today in, let's say, auto industry? So taking your example, online sales versus offline sales, where a Generation Z knows which product to buy. I walk into a let's say, a dealer, just pick up the car and get out, rather than you stocking, let's say, goods there for 90 days. And what we've seen in the automobile industry with about 260, 270 dealers going bust because of their working capital finance issues. Where do you see a role coming in?
So many thanks for your question. What you've said is something which is already happening in other sectors. because like there are brands which are available within the same roof, so say they compete with each other. In case of auto right now, the multi-brand is yet to come in. That is maybe a distinct possibility as of now, because all the auto brands have their exclusive showrooms. But yes, when it comes to customization of the product, they are available. So you can go on the website, you can across almost all manufacturers, you can customize and create a product and walk out of a showroom that they allocate to you. Apart from that, we are yet far away from the from the moment where we would be getting into that particular model. That's what my understanding is.
Okay, one last question to this lady in the front.
Should I just ask?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, my question is actually to Mr. Arvind from McDonald's, because you run a brand which actually in a way caters to young parents and the kids of different age groups. I'm in the process of launching an app which actually caters to new parents and kids till the age of 18. How do you look at marketing? I mean, do you actually target age groups, or you identify one, segment and say, okay, my marketing will be only towards these?
Right. So McDonald's is truly a democratic brand. As much as the youngsters are important, the families are equally important, and that's been the brand philosophy for a long time. So there are two parts to the marketing approach. One is, of course, a broad brush where mass media, traditional media, if you like, is used extensively as a broad brush for storytelling across demographics. And then we slice and dice, right? So, for example, even to the extent when we look at influencers, one segment of influencers, mummy bloggers, for example, are ultra critical to our mix, right? So I think both are very important from McDonald's marketing model perspective. And then digital is so great in allowing us to do that slice and dice and then have those conversations, tailored conversations to that kind of consumers, and then move into digital action or an offline action. So to answer your question, both are extremely crucial for the brand.
Yeah, I think just to end our time is up, the red screen has come in, but I think just summarizing some of the discussions we've had, I think first thing is that the Gen Z, it's a significant population of India, right? If half of the population below 25, you're talking about 500 million people of Gen Z. They are going to buy digital products. They're going to also subscribe to things. They're going to have instant decisions. Their desire will turn into action immediately. And they are the ones who are going to have consumption for the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So just from a target audience point of view, I think it's very, very critical that all of us brands, all of us agencies create a strategy and build up something that is going to target this audience, because I think it's very, very critical an audience to ignore. So PD,
just to add on, just as a concluding remark, the 3 I's, right? Inspire, initiate, and immediacy. Just keep these 3 points in mind. If you can just get this going on, you've got this generation. So inspire, initiate, and be immediate about it. So how can you get them in quickly? So that's
cool. May I have a round of applause for the panelists?
Thank you so much again, and may I request all the panelists to please come together for a group photograph. And I believe there were some more hands up there for questions, but I'm going to request you to please connect with all our speakers offline for any further questions. But on that note, we're about to get started with our next presentation. Our next speaker is already here, so I'm going to request all of you to please be seated. Thank you.